Welcome to Vacuum Wars, and to our review of the Ecovacs Dbot T50 Max Pro and the T50 Pro. These two robot vacuum mop combos from Ecovacs, one of the leading manufacturers, are similar in many ways, though the T50 Max Pro is slightly more expensive than the T50 Pro, but both of them are cheaper than the flagship Ecovacs robots like the X8. After buying both of these for ourselves and putting them through all kinds of tests over the past few weeks, I found that one of these, the T50 Max Pro, was not only the best Ecovacs product we've ever tested, but it's currently ranking number 1 out of all the robot vacuums we've tested on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 list on our website, marking the first time in a while that Ecovacs has claimed the top spot there. In this video, I'll go over the similarities and differences of the T50 Max Pro and the T50 Pro and explain why they ended up impressing us so much. So, links in the description, and let's get started. The T50 series sits just below the X8 Omni in terms of price, and they can be bought in different color options. The T50 Max and the Max Pro have many of the same official features, specs, and hardware. For example, underneath, they're virtually identical. They use the same single side brush and floating main brush, and they have the same 2-spinning mop pad system. They also both have what Ecovacs calls TrueEdge 2.0, which means that they both have an automatically extending side brush, which extends when it senses it's near corners for vastly improved corner coverage, which worked well in our tests. TrueEdge 2.0 also refers to their automatically extending mop pad that extends when it senses it's close to an edge for superior mopping coverage, which also worked well in our test. And both of those features can be controlled in the app. Both of their main brushes have something they call Zero Tangle 2.0, which is little plastic combs in the housing that remove hair as it vacuums. And both of these got perfect scores in the 7-inch hair tests that we do, which is well above the average score. They both have the same size battery and the same official low-power battery life numbers, and in the various battery life tests that we did, their battery life proved to be just slightly above average with both battery efficiency and average estimated square feet per charge numbers. Another thing they have in common is their Omni stations, which although aren't exactly identical, are pretty close to identical. In both cases, when the robots return to their base, the station will not only empty the robot's dustbin into the disposable bag, but both stations will wash the robot's mop pads, dry the mop pads, and refill the robot's water tank. Both stations also have detergent reservoirs, which can automatically mix water and detergent. They both have a premium feature, which is a self-washing station, where little spinning squeegee modules in the base will clean the base out periodically, though you can also remove that tray for manual deep cleaning on both versions. They also both have a sensor that can tell how dirty the mop water is, and it will initiate additional mop pad washings or even additional mop runs if enabled in the app. Really, the only differences I could find with their stations is that the Max Pro version has fast charging and slightly hotter air drying than the Pro version. But let's move on to their differences, and one of the biggest differences between them is internal, but it's also probably the reason that the Max version is slightly taller, which is because it has an upgraded motor. With the T50 Max Pro, Ecovacs has introduced their Blast Airflow technology, which they say means that the T50 Max Pro has a bigger motor with more torque, larger fan blades, and a larger air inlet. And in the various power tests that we did, it really showed. In fact, the T50 Max Pro had 28 CFM of airflow on max power compared to 21 CFM on the Pro version, where the average is 16 CFM, and 28 CFM is the second highest score we've ever seen out of 138 robot vacuums tested in this way. And the only robot vacuum it didn't beat was literally the first robot vacuum to come on the market over 20 years ago, but that's another story. The suction numbers were also really impressive, where again the T50 Max Pro was higher than the Pro version, but they were both above average. In terms of practical performance, they were both really good at picking up debris on the surfaces of hard floors and carpets, picking up all the debris sizes we tested them with, and they were both very similar in that regard, having, as I mentioned, almost identical sweeping equipment. One notable thing was that the T50 Max Pro got a rare perfect score on the 2.5-inch flattened pet hair pickup test on carpet, where the T50 Pro only had about an average score. With the carpet deep clean test, where we see how good they are at picking up deeply embedded debris like sand in carpets, they both had above average scores. As I mentioned, they both use the same spinning mop pad design, which has become really popular recently. In terms of features, they both have auto-lifting mop pads, where when the robot senses carpets, the mop pads will lift up automatically so that you can vacuum and mop homes with a mixture of hard floors and carpets in the same run, making them vastly more efficient than previous generations of robot vacuums that did not have lifting pads. Though interestingly, the T50 Max Pro mop pads can lift up 18 millimeters compared to only 9 millimeters on the Max Pro, probably due to the height difference. But the most impressive thing with both of the T50 models to me was their actual mopping ability in our dried-on stain mopping test. They both did absolutely amazing here, mopping up the dried-on stains in very few passes, and we tested this twice for each robot with similar results. As I've been saying in the last few videos, the real question about how good a robot vacuum is at mopping is not just how quickly it can pick up dried stains, but how much water is left behind when doing so. And both T50 models left behind much less water than I would expect for this score, which is really good. And when you combine their two scores, the dried on mopping score plus the water score, it means that these two robot vacuums are the best robot vacuum mops we've ever tested, at least based on our current scoring system. I'm not exactly sure what Ecovacs did differently here. I think it may be more downward pressure than average, but I'm not sure. In any case, they're just really good mops. And Ecovacs seems to have solved something with regard to robot vacuum mopping. Before I move on to the cons, I wanted to mention something that's just kind of average, which is their navigation efficiency. Don't get me wrong, they were both above average with navigation efficiency and coverage, but just barely. Robot vacuum manufacturers have been moving from top-mounted LiDAR, which is more traditional, to internal LiDAR lately. This is partly because they think that it can help the robots get under more furniture, but I think it's a bit of a downgrade, even if it's slightly a downgrade. The internal LiDAR construction is one of the areas where they differ in terms of hardware. They have slightly different versions of it, but in the end, it seemed like they were about the same, and as I said, it was slightly above average. Moving on to the cons. They both have front-mounted obstacle avoidance sensors, which help the robot to avoid household objects that it would otherwise get stuck on. And in this case, they seem to be using the same sensors, what Ecovacs calls AIVI 3D 3.0, which is a camera and a 3D structured light system. And while it's hard to complain about this too much, because having obstacle avoidance on a robot vacuum in this price range is definitely a pro and way better than robot vacuums that don't have it, this is still an area that I thought could have been better with the T50 series. In our obstacle avoidance tests, they were very similar, but they were similarly below average, consistently missing some things like pet waste and some other more common items. If obstacle avoidance is very important to you, you may want to look elsewhere, or at least try to pick up a little before each run. Another con was the aggressive side brush on both models. This is something that I've seen with all the latest Ecovacs products. They tend to scatter debris on hard floors a little more than I like. It was mostly noticeable in our torture tests where we use a lot of debris, and it wouldn't be as big of a deal in normal situations. And I should say that it seems like the scattering issue was less with the T50 series than I saw with the Ecovacs X8 or even the Yeti, which is made by Ecovacs, but the scattering was noticeable, and I did knock off a few points because of it. I think one of the big stories here, though, is the price. Remember, the T50 Max Pro, the more expensive of these two, isn't even the most expensive Ecovacs robot vacuum. And yet, as I'm about to say, it's currently ranking number 1 overall. And the T50 Pro, the cheaper one, which is selling at an amazing price in the mid-level range, is ranking number 5 overall. Those numbers might change by the time this video comes out, but the point is still valid. These are amazing products for the price. So, after adding up all the scores, the T50 Max Pro turned out to be the current best overall robot vacuum on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 list. And the cheaper version, the T50 Pro, is also ranking number 5 and currently holds the title for best value robot vacuum on that list. So this is a massive win for Ecovacs, who appears to have really put it all together in terms of performance and value with the T50 series. Again, they're not perfect, especially with regard to their obstacle avoidance, but they are exceptional robot vacuums for the price. Links in the description, and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching.